The story begins 3 million years ago on Earth, the time of humanity's first appearance. Our main protagonist was there, simply an Australopithecus who loved hunting like others. But strangely, he did not die. An above bubble is split between. Endless eons passed him by, but time had no effect on him. What kept him enduring through endless time was hunting, combat, and fighting. Only that was his joy. For 3 million years, his body had evolved to suit battle, relying solely on physical strength. He became a god. He's ranked 1 in the divine realm and was called Earth God Mu. Mu was responsible for planet Earth. There was a time when he was bored. He suddenly strongly stomped the ground, which affected God's sanctuary, or the divine realm. A strong blow of wind coming from Mu hit the realm, which disturbed the demons and angels. That time Lucifer, the one responsible for the planet Elmer, was standing and suddenly felt the shaking. He was annoyed as he uttered, "Here we go again." He's Elmer God Lucifer, ranked 2 in the divine realm. Mu was bored for the reason that he felt like he had fought all the ones worth fighting, and no one in there left to match him. He was so upset since it had been so long since he last fought, and he never thought that even being too strong was still a problem. While thinking, he realizes that the truth is that he cannot fight because he is too strong, which is why he instantly decides to get weaker. That idea came into his mind after 1,000 years, and because of that, he felt very genius to himself. He concludes that there would be no shortage of opponents to fight with the weakened body of a human from Earth. He rose and called his subordinate Yong. A dragon then flew toward him and landed on the ground in front of him. Yong is a very tall dragon. He's the head secretary of the supreme god. He then asked Mu why he called him. Mu just said, "While I'm away, make sure to take good care of things." Yong then immediately activates the binding of the absolute being. 2 magic circles appeared on each of his hands, and there were chains coming out from them. Yong wrapped the chain around Mu's body. "Where are you going, master?" Without even explaining. "There's a gathering of gods soon. What are you planning to do?" Yong asked. Mu took a step and pulled Yong with him. He then asked Yong if he was working part-time. Yong still begged him not to leave as he didn't know what to do. Also, he doesn't know how to explain at the meeting since he doesn't have any idea where Mu is going and why he's leaving. He was worried as he believed that everyone would probably take their frustration out on him. He was complaining that he felt so worthless, and by that he angered Mu. Mu broke the chain and asked Yong if he wanted to fight with him. Yong was sweating and nervous, and just told Mu to take care of himself. Mu then informed him he needed to leave. He was touching the earth while wondering whose weak body he would borrow. As he was touching the earth, he heard some voices of human beings complaining about their lives. Someone then said, "If there's a god, then go eat some crap. If you're upset, send me to another world." Mu was shocked upon hearing it. He then widely smiled and decided to choose this human and said, "As a bonus, I'll grant your wish." He was chuckling while Yong was sad behind him. He side-eyed and felt guilty, so he was thinking of giving some explanation to Yong before leaving the realm. "I'll leave the body behind, so take good care of it. I'm leaving it in your hands, since it's you. Make sure to take good care of the one who will come here in my place." Yong was shocked that Mu was only taking the soul, which is not allowed. As per Yong, if the body dies while the soul is still inside, the soul will be destroyed. But then, Mu was not worried about anything, and he promised Yong that he would be back soon. And while he's trying to enter the earth, Yong is still asking him not to continue. Mu screamed while he was entering the earth, as he felt so much pressure. A few minutes ago, a young boy was holding a sword, and he widely smiled as he proclaimed that he finally defeated the Demon King. It turned out it was just a game, and this game had just ended. The user of the young boy character was holding the phone and stated that he easily became a munchkin in another world with cheat abilities. So, is this the harem ending in another world after all? Lucky bastard. He added. He's Earthling, Lee Ho, a 17-year-old nerdy boy. He dropped his phone and said that the game was fun. The phone cracked as it landed on the ground. He was standing on the rooftop of a school building, and he said he could now die without any regrets. He was clenching his fists while trembling. He is full of wounds all over his body. He suddenly jumped and said farewell to this world. While he was falling, he uttered, "If there is a God, then God eat some crap." He thought that God was upset with him, so he was hoping he would be sent to another world. Blood splattered on his phone as he fell beside it. His hand was still moving. He was screaming in pain, and it turned out Mu already possessed Liho's body. Right now, Li Ho's soul is transmitted into another world as he wished for. He was sweating while he was full of confusion. He found himself standing in front of a giant dragon. His sweat continuously dropped, and he and the dragon asked each other's identity. Before Li Ho fell down, Mu already possessed his weak body, which means Mu was aware he was falling. The eyeglasses fell from his eyes. He was panicking knowing he was falling. But then it's too late for him to do something since he has already sunk to the ground. He tried to get up, but he was struggling. He was lying in his own blood and was aware he was having involuntary muscles. It is muscles that move without conscious control. The heart and the muscles of internal organs are examples of involuntary muscles. Mu, who has spent 3 million years training his physical body, has reached the pinnacle of understanding of human form. He could consciously control every part of his body and blood vessels, and even the involuntary muscles were no exception. Mu caught his breath as he regained consciousness. He was holding his chest while thinking that he had repaired the heart of the borrowed body. He has by moving the blood vessels, and even managed to stop the bleeding. He then slowly rose while recalling that it had been a while since he had bled this much. He smirked all of a sudden and told himself that coming here was definitely the right choice. He then sifted through his memories and immediately headed to his base, leaving his broken eyeglasses on the ground. He suddenly handstands, believing it would help him more to search for Li Mo's base. Meanwhile, he arrived at the house of Earthling Li Ho. He spent an hour digging through Li Ho's memories and figured out his home. He found out that Li Ho has one male family member, but lives far away. Essentially, Li Ho lives alone. In simple terms, Li Ho is poor or miserable. His occupation involves attending a place called school. And there's more. At this school, there's someone who picks a fight with him every time he goes. Mu was so glad upon knowing it, since he mainly came to this world just to search for some fight. He punched the air as he said that he could jump straight into a fight. However, he felt so much pain in his arm, and he concluded it might be because of that handstand. His arm was shaking in pain, and he was sure that Li Mo's body wasn't used to using his muscles, which is why it was having muscle soreness. Despite it, he still laughed as he felt it was so exhilarating, as it had been 1,000 years since he last felt muscle soreness. The next day, teachers and police in the school were intrigued by the blood on the ground where Li Ho fell. Mu went to school early and ignored the commotion. He entered the building like nothing happened. He went to his classroom where he could find the bully, and as he opened the sliding door, he hit his own face the moment he let go of it. He then walked straight to the bully while holding his painful face. "Hey, idiot Li Ho, what are you doing?" the bully asked. Mu was staring madly at him. He continued to walk and stopped in front of the bully. "It's you, isn't it?" he asked. The bully thought he'd gone crazy and was asking about his glasses since he was not wearing one. This bully hit Mu's face and said, "Did you sell them? Without your glasses, you're an even easier target than a grandma." Blood was dripping from Mu's mouth, and he didn't do anything for a moment. Mu has his own rules when it comes to fighting. A fight only begins when all parties involved have shown the will to fight, and he is always ready for a fight. Therefore, the key lies in the opponent's intent, and the way to confirm that is by the opponent's first strike. As he sees that sign from the bully, he smirks as he finally gets back to fight. Upon seeing him laughing, the bully told him he was insane. Mu swung his arm and closed his fist. He then released a strong punch straight to the bully's face. However, Mu felt pain in his arm again. He was moaning in pain, but he was aware it was muscle sore again. At this moment, their professor scolded them for fighting in front of everyone. All the students were looking at them, but both of them ignored everyone. The bully at this moment was furious since it was the first time he saw Li Ho dare to hit him. He then clenched his fist while charging toward Mu. Mu used both of his arms and covered himself. He was sure that if his body were in good condition, he'd be able to avoid the bully's punch. He activates his third and fourth magic. However, it instantly vanishes since he lacks earth mana. The bully's fist landed on his face and was telling him not to mess around. Mu told himself he didn't have many options this time, and since he could not use his arms, legs, or magic, he ended up using his head and blocked his enemy's fist. The bully's hand's bone got cracked, causing him to scream in agony. Mu then smiled in satisfaction, thinking that thin finger bones couldn't possibly overcome the skull. He was staring at the bully as he planned to make another move before the guy came back to his senses. He charged at the bully and grabbed his hand. He then used his head once more and hit the weakest point of the human being, the solar plexus. The bully screamed very loudly, but Mu was still not satisfied and decided to do a follow-up attack. He then hit the bully's jaw upward, and the bully this time couldn't do anything. He just kneeled on the ground in front of Mu and passed out. The students inside the room took a video and photos as they never thought a weak boy could beat a strong one. Most of them were confused as they recalled that Liho was beaten and scampered home yesterday. Mu was speechless, staring at the bully. After a fight ends and the excitement settles, there is something Mu feels. That is the rhythmic pain pulsing in the struck area. The sticky, metallic taste of blood soaked into his spit. He guffaws all of a sudden despite the fact that his painful hands were shaking. He told himself that this was it, a thing he was looking for. He whispered thanks to the bully for the fight they had. Shockingly, he widely opened his mouth and bit the bully's ear. He then stood and spit out the part of the ear he cut. Everyone was shocked, and there were some who even recorded the scene. They were nervous, thinking that Liho was such a crazy bastard for biting the bully's ear. Mu was smiling while wiping the blood from his mouth. He was still staring at the bully and proclaimed that it had been a while since he had such a fun fight. Mu always left his own mark on those who gave him an enjoyable fight. It was his way of expressing gratitude and marking them as toys capable of providing him joy. They were given the name Mu's playthings. Only formidable warriors could provide him with joy through battle, naturally making Mu's playthings a symbol of strength. However, on Earth, it was called something else. Right at this time, the news about Liho's fight spread all over the school. It was weird for them since the news said that a bully was beaten up by the kid he was picking on, and the loser in the fight got neutered. A 911 was called and carried the bully heading inside the vehicle to bring him to the hospital. Mu saw it, and it was nice for him to see a mobile treatment service. When the ambulance left, Mu waved his hand and uttered, "Let's meet again." At the same time, the class professor was already standing beside him. The old man was mad, commanding Mu to go to the teacher's office. When they arrived at the officer, the teacher was mad, asking Mu if he was out of his mind. The teacher was about to hit Mu because of anger, and Mu was thrilled while waiting to be hit. However, the teacher didn't continue and just said that there was no reason to talk to the students. He commanded Mu to call his parents and bring them to the school. He then permitted Mu to leave early and not cause a scene. Mu was smiling, but he was puzzled why the professor didn't hit him. Meanwhile, he walked on the street to head back home. Still, he was confused about what the professor meant to say about leaving early. But for him, it must mean returning to base. His hand was shaking. He was staring at it while saying that he needed time to recover from the damage, so he felt lucky that the professor dismissed him early. Also, he believes that there's a lot for him to do if he wants to keep fighting with the frail body he has. And he was hoping that he could at least use his mana in this world. Power beyond humanity is called mana. In some places, it's called chi or chakra, but most gods refer to it as mana. The life force that exists everywhere in nature, the mana. It enables humans to become hunters in some worlds and wizards in others. But on Earth, mana does not exist, so magic and skills cannot be used. Mu tried it this time, but he still had no luck, so he concluded he needed to adapt to fighting without his third and fourth magic. He lay down on his bed and closed his eyes as he decided to head back to his world temporarily, believing that recovering would take time. After just a few seconds, he appeared in the realm. He was shocked when he saw Liho's soul playing with Yong. Liho got down from the dragon and asked Mu to give Yong to him. "Didn't you call him to send me to another world? While you're at it, might as well hand him over," Liho said. He secretly chuckled, thinking that he can dominate another world with a dragon with him. Mu activates his magic power, and a huge hand appears. He then said that Liho is such a weird guy. He then wrapped the huge hand to Liho's body, and Liho rattled while asking Mu what he was doing. Mu just turned around and replied that he would send Liho to another world. Meanwhile, they arrived at Lucifer's domain, the second in rank. Lucifer was standing and felt people walking behind him. He turned his head around and said, "No." Yong then told him that they hadn't said anything yet. Mu at the same time proclaimed yes. He pointed at Liho while commanding Lucifer to open the gate as he decided to send Yong to another world. "Why do you get to decide that?" Lucifer asked. Mu then confidently replied that he was the strongest one, and he told Lucifer to take a swing at him if he had a problem, as he was ready anytime. Lucifer was shaking in anger, thinking that Mu was such a dumb brute with nothing but strength. Mu went near him and told him to step aside so he would do it on his own. Mu touches the domain while Lucifer reminds him that interfering with another god's domain is taboo among gods. And if God was not in charge and touched it, a barrier would activate. The domain was shattered by Mu, and seeing it made Lucifer dumbfounded. Why is it always no? Have you ever tried? Lazy bum. Mu said. Lucifer then told him it is how the laws of the world work. Mu ignored him and called Li Ho. He then ordered Li Ho to go inside, but Li Ho was confused. Mu then crossed his arms and said, "You said you wanted to go, right? That's the other world." Li Ho then asked about the dragon, but Mu told him to find one in the other world, since Yong Yong belongs to him. Li Ho was about to tell his real intention to dominate the other world, but then Mu pushed him away and proclaimed that kids these days don't want to work for what they want. He then walked away and told Lucifer to take good care of Li Ho. Lucifer was mad. He was shaking in anger, but he didn't respond at all. Lucifer originally came from his domain, planet Elmer. He was known as the first demon king and stood at the top of all life. Being arrogant, he challenged the being known as God, and because of his eagerness, he killed the god. He then took God's position and defeated other gods to claim the ultimate throne. He became the god of gods, the absolute among them. Invincible, supreme, legendary and unique, catastrophic yet mythical, infinite and transcendent, always he was awesome. Until Mu appeared. That is the reason why Lucifer was so mad at Mu. And of course, he still had a plan of defeating Mu when the time came. While Mu and Jung were headed back to their base, there was a one-eyed demon creature following them. Right at the same time, Li Ho's bully was shaking in anger while sitting in a hospital bed. Because of his anger, he swore to kill Li Ho. He thinks he's tough, but he's already done for. He uttered. He grabbed his phone as he decided to call someone named Cheol. A guy was busy in his boxing training. This guy is the 111th National Sports Festival, Youth Division, boxing middleweight champion, Kong Cheol. Kong Cheol stopped his training the moment he heard a phone ring. He turned his head around and asked who was calling. Another man then walked toward the phone and replied that it was his phone ringing. He then answered the call and said, "Yeah, what's up?" He's Guak Cheol. He had 2 years of boxing experience and had 14 sparring sessions. "Hyung, it's me. Remember you said your phone screen was broken? Don't you need a new one?" The bully said. Guak Cheol was confused for a moment, but he suddenly smiled and told the bully to just go straight to the point. The next day, the bully attended the class. As he walked inside, he heard students wondering how he ended up beaten after picking on people. He was trembling in annoyance when he heard people mocking him for being nothing but a weak one. He suddenly threw his bag on the ground and angrily said, "Are you all whispering loud enough for me to hear? You cowards. If you've got a problem, face me head on." A lady, the class president, stood and looked straight at the bully, then told him to quit and just sit down or get out. The bully was mad at her and asked her if she was out of her mind. He grabbed a chair and asked the lady if she wanted to die. The professor, a big guy, entered their class and asked them what was going on. He went to the board and asked the president why she was standing. The class president sat back and replied, "It's nothing." "Ah, class president, after school today, come see me for a moment," the teacher said. The lady then asked him why. Meanwhile, after school, the class president went to the big guy's teacher to find out the reason for the private conversation. It turned out that the teacher wanted her to check on Li Ho since Li Ho didn't attend the class and hadn't answered the phone call. He then waved goodbye to the lady and promised her that he would write her a glowing recommendation letter for her senior year. The lady was so annoyed, but she didn't refuse since she didn't have the choice. After a few minutes, she arrived at the house of Li Ho. She tried to knock, but no one opened the door for her. She decided to open the door, and she saw Li Ho lying upside down. Li Ho's eyes were white, and his mouth was wide open, which made the lady think he was already a corpse. The lady then called 911 and admitted Li Ho to the hospital. Li Ho's body was lying in the hospital bed, and after an hour of staying in the hospital, Mu finally went back to Li Ho's body and was shocked when he found himself in a different place. He didn't notice that their class president was sitting beside him. Then, he saw the dextrose on his wrist. He was clueless about what this thing was, but he was sure that because of it, something was entering his body directly through his veins. He was sure that it was nutrients, and he felt his body was absorbing it quickly, which helped him recover. He felt it wasn't magic, but he was impressed by its effect. He suddenly smiled as he realized that Earth has some decent stuff after all. The class president thought he was crazy for laughing all of a sudden. She then stood and stated, "The homeroom teacher told me to go back to school. He asked me to find him first. He keeps nagging, so I'll take the call." Mu rises and stares at the lady while wondering if she's the one who helped him recover. The lady was about to leave, but then Mu told her he had a question. The lady permitted him to ask, but she was in a hurry, so she told him to be quick. Right now, Mu was thinking that he didn't know enough about Earth, so he needed more information. He then decided to ask the lady where he could train his body, as he knew that getting stronger was the first thing he should do. While asking, he pulled the dextrose on his wrist. The lady was looking at him and asked him if he had the money to pay. Meanwhile, late in the afternoon, Mu went to the park to start his training. It is the place that the class president suggested, since Mu said he doesn't have the money. Mu already trained for an hour, and he felt satisfied doing it. He remembered the lady said that this place was called Sansajang. He was amazed to see such professional training equipment, since he didn't have these things in his days 4,000 years ago. That time, he only did stone rolling, cliff climbing, and digging holes. For him, it was all a simple primitive training method. While he was practicing the leg equipment and trying to figure out how to use it right, someone hit his back using a small stone. As he turned his head behind, he saw it was the bully together with another guy, which was Chiol. "I searched the whole neighborhood for you. Why the hell are you here?" "Huh," the bully said. Mu picked up the rock and asked them who dared to throw it at him. The bully then replied it was him. He was confident that he could now take revenge with the help of his cousin. He was saying so many words, but Mu cut him off by punching his face without any warning. The bully instantly fell to the ground and screamed in agony. Mu was smiling, knowing that he did a preemptive attack. At the same time in the divine realm, Yong gathered the gods to have a usual meeting. Yong was sweating and nervous. He was holding a paper and declared to start the meeting. He told everyone that he would relay the message of his lord, Mu. Before he could say the words, Lucifer called his attention. Lucifer's aura was dark. He was mad while asking Yong what he was doing. Yong was panicking as he replied that he did not do anything and would only deliver the message of his lord, then leave. He then raised the paper and read it. Mu said, "Same as always. If you find someone worth fighting, report it. That's all." Everyone was silent momentarily, but Lucifer suddenly punched the table, causing it to crack. "What's even the point of this? I'm already annoyed with these pointless meetings, and now he doesn't even bother showing up. Are we really okay with this?" he said. Still, there is no response from the other gods. Lucifer was furious. Ranked third in the divine realm, the divine archer Soso then said, "These meetings are supposed to ensure world stability. When an abnormality shows up that the Earth God can't handle, we're supposed to step in and deal with it. But isn't this ridiculous? Him not attending is just disappointing." Lucifer stood madly and stated that the real issue is that maintaining the world feels like just another game for Mu, and he's afraid that the entire system could collapse because of Mu's reckless antics. He added that the worst part Mu did was his so-called solutions that would only make things worse. He was looking at the Cyclops beside him and reminded him of what happened to his planet Cyclops from 1,000 years ago. The god of Cyclops is the 9th ranked in the divine realm. His anger came back as he recalled what happened back then. 1,000 years ago, planet Cyclops was attacked by the void creature Shoggoth. While Shoggoth was attacking the planet, Mu came, but he was drunk, which gave Shoggoth an advantage to devour part of the planet. As per Lucifer, if they had worked together, they could have minimized the damage. He was shaking in anger as he proclaimed that he couldn't stand watching Mu destroy things anymore. For him, Mu is not a fit to be a god. Yong was annoyed upon hearing it. But of course, he cannot do anything at all. He almost cried while questioning why he had to endure this trial, and he was hoping that his Lord Mu would return soon. Back in the park, the bully of Li Ho was mad at Mu for hitting him. "Do you even know who my cousin is? He's a boxer, you moron. You're finished," he said. Guak Chiol then told Mu, "You've got quick fists. What sport do you play?" Mu was smiling as he replied that he doesn't play sports, but he fights. Guak Chiol spit out his gum and laughed so loud and said that this feels like some kind of middle school syndrome. He then prepared his fists and challenged Mu to have a spar. He then punched Mu straight to the face, and there was some smoke since his strike was too strong. However, he was confused. The moment he released a punch, he noticed that Mu watched his punch all the way to the end, but deliberately took the hit. He doesn't have any idea that Mu never dodges a preemptive strike. Is hand-to-hand combat your thing? Mu asked. Guak Chiol was dumbfounded. Mu copied his fist position and asked him if he was doing the right thing. Guak Chiol then smirks while thinking that Mu is awkwardly copying him. Mu strikes a punch and Guak Chiol uses his hand to block the attack. Damn, what kind of crazy punch was that? Guak Chiol asked as he felt an unreal power. So this is how it's done? Mu asked with a wide smile. At the moment of impact, he tensed his arm muscles as hard as he could. His arm was screaming in pain, but he chose to ignore it as it felt amazing for him. He was thrilled, he was drooling. He had never felt this kind of force from those weaklings who would break the moment he touched them. He suddenly pulled his belt and wrapped it in his wrist. He told himself that he must take good care of the body he possessed even if he was fighting. For now, he wants to use the belt as temporary himantis, an ancient Greek boxing strap made of 4-meter-long tanned cowhide. What the hell, bro? You said you'd fight fair, the bully said to his cousin. Guak Chiol was annoyed at him and told him to shut up and stay out. He slightly smiled and told Mu, "You seriously think you can win like this?" He then started to punch Mu several times while telling Mu his guard is a total joke. His punch was fast and precise, but way too predictable for Mu. While he was punching, Mu was staring at how his muscles moved. By that, he can tell exactly where Guak Chiol was aiming. Guak Chiol laughed and struck a strong punch, but then Mu managed to block it with his fist. Guak Chiol was puzzled. He then screamed in agony while Mu was looking at him. Mu suddenly smiled as he noticed that Guak Chiol and the bully were the same for having hilarious reactions. He then punched Guak Chiol's neck and Guak Chiol instantly passed out, which shocked the other bully. The bully then looked at Mu and saw his scary aura. "Now, shall we finish this?" Mu said, but the bully was already sweating in fear. Mu walked toward the bully, and the bully was begging him not to come closer. Mu then thought that the bully had no will to fight anymore. "Are you not going to fight? If I admit defeat, this is where it ends," he added, which made the bully think he won't fight anymore. However, Mu strongly punched him in the face. He was screaming in pain while covering his face with his hands. Mu hit him numerous times and never gave him a chance to speak. His face bloated. Blood dripped from his nose. He started to cry in pain, but Mu didn't stop. Mu stood in front of him and raised his knee while saying, "You're really ruthless. You just won't admit defeat." The bully was lying beside Guak Chiol. He was too weak and lucky for him that Mu decided to let him go and bit Guak Chiol's ear then walked away. He was staring at Mu leaving while cursing him words. Meanwhile, Mu went back to Li Ho's room. He was sitting in the bed while thinking that he was having fun fighting. However, he noticed his body breaks so easily. He never thought that his current muscles would tear so easily. He wanted to keep this feeling going, but it was a shame for him that the flow kept getting interrupted. He closed his eyes as he decided to temporarily go back to his original world and bring back what he told Yong about. Shaking happened while he was in the process. It stopped all of a sudden, and he didn't feel anything, so he decided to open his eyes and found himself in the same place. He was confused as to why it wasn't working. Back in the time when Mu went to the domain of Elmer, the god Lucifer, he left Lucifer shaking in anger. As he rode to Yong asked him if he had a good trip to Earth. Mu then replied that he was very satisfied. It was just that his body was too weak. He crossed his arm as he commanded Yong to get a recovery magic orb as soon as possible. Magic orb is an object containing magic used on Elmer, the planet under Lucifer's charge, or other planets. They are common items on planets with abundant mana, but on Earth, it can only be obtained through divine blessing or whim. Therefore, only a few could use them throughout human history, and they were regarded as beings like gods by humans. That time Mu asked for it. Yong promised to prepare it before he went next time. Mu then got off from Yong while Yong asked him about the regular meeting. Mu then grabbed something inside his shorts while saying that he had prepared it as he explained Yong would complain so much. It turned out it was his letter. He then went straight to the planet Earth and touched it until his soul disappeared, leaving his body unconscious. During that time, the one-eyed demon witnessed everything and Lucifer received that report. He doesn't know what Mu was plotting, but he concludes that Mu has no plans to return for a while as he didn't even show up for a regular meeting. He was serious, but he suddenly chuckled and said that this is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. He then activates his magic, a life taxidermy, and aims it at Yong. Yong was alerted. He immediately moves away and dodges every strike. "What are you doing? Is this a declaration of war against the Earth God?" Young asked. Lucifer then used his wings and flew. He then proclaims that he will expel the earth god from the seat of divinity. He declared it would be a war. Upon hearing it, Young then casts his compressed breath and blows it toward Lucifer. Lucifer deflected the attack, and the flame spun around the domain and exploded. Soso at the same time cast her self-defense aura to shield them, but they were still affected by the explosion. Polymorph release. Young uttered. His aura changed, but Lucifer was not scared at all, and even confidently said, "You're next, and after you your master." Young then replied, "There is no next." Soso suddenly exhaled in disappointment. She crossed her arms and told both Young and Lucifer that they weren't in the right atmosphere for a proper meeting. Lucifer attacked Young using the same magic, and this time, Young was harmed. Soso then decided to leave, but Lucifer stopped her and asked which side she was supporting. Soso then replied that it didn't matter to her at all, and she just permitted Lucifer to mark her as neutral. Lucifer then told her to step out of the way, and he commanded those gods who opposed the war to step forward. He was confident he could handle this battle alone. Young then asked him if he really thinks he can defeat the earth god. Lucifer smiled and answered, "You mean your master who took over the body of a weak earthling?" Young was shocked that Lucifer knew about it. Complacency in your strength and neglecting vigilance will only lead to this, Lucifer added. Young was annoyed, but he couldn't do anything. He tried to attack Lucifer with his tail, but Lucifer was calm and slashed Young's tail. Lucifer then proclaims that he can still get to Earth as long as Young is still alive. He chuckled and stated that he would destroy Mu on Earth, knowing that Mu was inside a weak body right now. Young was hopeless. He kept hearing how Lucifer guffaws. He trembled in anger, but of course, he didn't have the strength to stop Lucifer. Back on Earth, Guak Cheol went to his training, and he was shaking while listening to his coach scolding him for getting into a fight despite knowing that the competition was just around the corner. Ugh, seriously? Don't come back until your arm is healed. Get out of my sight, the coach angrily said. Guak Cheol turned around and walked away while blaming Mu for what happened. As he was about to leave, Kong Cheol arrived. Kong Cheol was puzzled upon seeing his injuries. He asked Guak Cheol about what happened, and he was stuttering while trying to give a response. He then realizes something. He got the idea of trying to ask for help from Kong Cheol. He told him that kids these days are terrifying. He explains that his cousin was being bullied, so he tried to step in and reason with them. However, he was ganged up and beat him up. He fakely cried while mentioning that those kids left his arm and ear in the worst state. But to his surprise, Kong Cheol just normally passed through him while telling him he should have been more careful before the competition. Kong Cheol also suggested that he do an extra sparring session rather than fighting. Guak Cheol was annoyed, but his reaction changed the moment Kong Cheol spoke again. He was smiling as he thought Kong Cheol noticed his crocodile tears. Who exactly is that guy? Kong Cheol asked. Back to Mu's POV, he was confused as to why he could not return to his original body. He felt strange, and he knew there was only one scenario where his body wouldn't return. That's when the original body is damaged. He thought that his body should be protected by Yong-Yong, and even if it was not Yong-Yong, he was sure there weren't many things that could harm his body. He suddenly flinched when he realized that all the other gods might have joined forces to attack him. He then stood with clenched fists while telling himself he should not waste more time. He was shaking in anger as he felt betrayed. He punched the pillow due to his anger while saying that it has been long since those gods challenged him, and of course, he wants to fight them again. He punched the pillow several times and uttered, "Please fight when I'm there." He stopped, but he was still mad. He calmed himself and believed that Yong wasn't someone who would go down so easily. Still, he can't just sit around and do nothing, so he decided to do what he can for now. The next day, Mu went to the park early in the morning to do some exercise and focused on strengthening muscles for now other than his arms. Using muscles he doesn't usually use, he can feel them screaming in pain, but he feels good about it. He guffaws all of a sudden, making the other people around think he was crazy. He flinched when he heard someone calling his attention. He unfortunately dropped to the ground and saw the class president standing beside him. She asked him why he didn't go to school. Mu invited her to sit, and he asked her if he really needed to attend the class. "Is not exactly a place for body training, is it?" he asked. The lady sighed and asked him what he wanted to do. Mu then replied that he wanted to get stronger, which is why he does training. The lady then questioned why he wanted to get stronger, and he answered that he wanted to fight better since he was currently too weak to fight at all right now. He explains that his body is completely untrained, so he needs to build it up. Plus, his arm is already screwed despite that he only got into a few fights. With strength training at the gym, he believes he will be able to fight more. Also, he was sure that fighting more would help his body move better. He was talking about fighting for hours, which made the lady think he was insane. She was wondering how he could make Liho go back to school. She then realized a way and asked, "What's the point of training if there's no one to fight?" She told him that he's just working out by himself, so nobody's going to challenge him. She suggested that he must meet people, stir up some conflicts, and then have fights. She then stood while telling Mu he should come to school starting tomorrow and not allow things to be her problem. She then walked away, and Mu was staring at her leaving as he realized she had a point. He concludes that those guys he last fought probably won't show up again, so he needed to find strong opponents himself. Of course, he believes searching for someone to fight while waiting for his body to recover doesn't sound bad for him. He stood then proclaimed, "Should I try going to that place called school starting tomorrow?" He didn't have any idea that someone was standing behind him and said, "Second year, Li Ho." "That's right, isn't it?" The guy was wearing a mask. Mu then smiled as he thought it would be another fight. He turned his head around and saw the guy's fist heading to him. Upon seeing it, he then uttered that Earth is the best. 15 years old Kong Cheol, that's the time when he was starting to stand out in boxing. Kong Cheol's sister, who was a rising rookie ballerina, got a stalker. The stalker's obsession grew increasingly severe and eventually crossed the line. The stalker tried to harass the lady, but Kong Cheol managed to stop the crime. But because he stopped it too early, the perpetrator didn't receive proper punishment. The obsession of the one who had failed once only grew stronger and became even more dangerous. That time, too, Kong Cheol managed to prevent the crime. He wasn't as fast as before, and the swan wings were broken. After that, he no longer trusted the law. He decided to do what the law couldn't. Secretly, he began vigilante activities every night. He made those who showed signs of becoming criminals pay the price in advance. For him, fighting is judgment. It turned out it was him who was standing in front of Mu. He punched Mu in the face, but Mu felt that it was light, so Mu concluded that this guy was testing him. Mu spit out the blood in his nose. He was smiling at the fact that Kong Cheol attacked, which meant he was challenging him for a battle. He felt so lucky that he found a fight after thinking it'd be tough to find fights for a while. "Why do you go around beating people? Do you want to become a thug or something?" Kong Cheol asked. Mu then told him that he's not a fan of small talk. Mu challenged him to fight immediately, and seeing his braveness only made Kong Cheol annoyed. Kong Cheol then charged at him while saying, "Then come at me." Kong Cheol released several punches, but Mu easily dodged it with a smile. Kong Cheon admitted Mu was dodging well, so he intended to block Mu's right field of vision. His fist landed at Mu, but he was surprised when Mu still managed to block it again. Kong Cheol then teases Mu for keeping blocking. Still, Mu continues to block the punch, and he is annoyed that Kong Cheol only attacks the ruptured spots on him. This time, Kong Cheol was able to hit his waist, and he felt the pain. He moves backward while Kong Cheol concludes that his arm isn't responding anymore for not being able to block the last punch. "No matter how injured you are, the judge shows no mercy," Kong Cheol proclaimed. Mu still dared to smile while holding his waist. He was shaking in pain, and seeing him smiling like crazy without any words made Kong Cheol confused. Also, his smile only triggered Kong Cheol's anger. Mu was staring at him while thinking that this guy couldn't be beaten, at least not right now. But of course, it didn't mean for him he couldn't waste the opportunity to fight. He told himself he could not win by just enjoying the fight. He's cautious, calm, and tries not to smile. He couldn't always win even if it was nothing. Still, it was enjoyable for him, but he wanted to win. So he always decided to calm his emotions and calmly assess the enemy. The more he thought and fought with his head, nothing grew stronger. Nothing suppressed his emotions as much as possible to grow stronger. Despite that, he couldn't stop the joy from leaking out. So, when he wanted to win, he suppressed his emotions even more. He forced himself to look sulky. Doing it right now only made Kong Cheol feel insulted and gave more reason to trigger his anger to full level. Kong Cheol clenched his fist. He was shaking and charged at Mu while asking him if he was fooling around. Still, Mu shows the same facial emotion. Kong Cheol tried to punch him again, but he was able to avoid it. His face aura becomes darker. He sunk his shoes on the ground and kicked it. Small particles of rocks flew toward Kong Cheol. Kong Cheol then proclaimed that throwing dirt in someone's eyes is something only a criminal in the making would do. Mu's head was down, but when he looks back at Kong Cheol, his reaction is still the same, which annoys Kong Cheol. Kong Cheol is now extremely angry. He continued to attack Mu, but Mu still dodged it. Kong Cheol appeared behind Mu at a fast speed and struck a punch, and Mu avoided it easily. Mu smiled seeing Kong Cheol also aiming for his chin. Bare-knuckle fighting existed in the previous world as well. If there was a difference between the two guys he fought before, it was that their fighting was far more defensive. The reason for that was the ground. The ground was filled with countless variables, making it difficult to fight while moving vigorously. Perhaps the evolution of flattened ground and footwear allowed the fighters of today to become more aggressive. With aggressive tendencies, and knowing exactly where he aims, it becomes easy to guide his movements. By that, Mu was able to dodge every time. Ultimately, if he makes the enemy move more, he believes that the chances of the variables he set up earlier occurring increase. When that brief opening appears, he sees it as a chance to spike the vital spot. When he was about to punch, he noticed something on his arm. Still, he continued to strike a punch. His arm shook, and he felt it wasn't responding, so he tried using his elbow in a pinch. Kong Cheol's eye protector got broken a little. He also attacked Mu, and Mu laughed at him as he thought Kong Cheol missed. But it turned out that Kong Cheol used a weapon and was able to hit Mu's leg. When Mu found it out, he instantly fell to the ground in pain. Is this fun for you? You'll probably keep doing the same thing and laughing like that in the future too, Kong Cheol said. He raised his weapon and declared that he would make sure Mu couldn't laugh anymore. Mu concludes he lost this time. He smiled as he recalled that it was nearly 4,000 years since his last defeat. All of a sudden, something flew toward Kong Cheol, and this thing bounced behind the tree. Kong Cheol flinched as he thought Mu had someone with him. Someone calls Mu by addressing him as master. Kong Cheol was sweating and immediately put on his jacket and ran away. The one who called Mu was standing beside him and called him again. Mu slowly turned his head around, and he was surprised when he saw a baby dragon the same as Yong. Are you Yong? He asked. Earlier, Mu's body was imprisoned inside a barrier of Lucifer. Lucifer was smiling as he was sure Mu could not return to his body again since his barrier was a severed space and soul could not enter. He decided to open the Earth's barrier, but before that, he gave Yong a chance to cooperate and promised him to have the position of Earth God once he dealt with Mu. Yong gives a response, but Lucifer cannot understand it. Lucifer was annoyed and said, "What are you saying? Speak up. I can't hear a thing with that big frame of yours." Yong then asked him if there's no attack that can get through the barrier once it is severed. Lucifer then replied he was right and told him he should accept the offer and cooperate. But Lucifer was confused when he heard Yong proclaim that it's good knowing attacks won't work on the barrier. Then, he noticed a golden light emerge. It turned out that Yong used his massive explosion. Lucifer was annoyed knowing it was too dangerous. But before he could do anything, Yong's power exploded. Yong then ran away. He became a small little dragon. He runs toward the earth to inform Mu of the situation. Lucifer tried to chase him. Lucifer was furious at him and screamed to grind him and Mu to dust. Lucifer released his weapon and aimed it at Yong. Yong ran to the earth as fast as he could, and he was lucky enough that Lucifer missed to hit him. He successfully entered the earth and directly flew to where Mu was having a fight. He flew straight into Kong Cheol's face and unintentionally hit him. Right now, they were already at Li Ho's house, and Yong explained everything and apologized to Mu. Mu was silent. He was mad at Lucifer and wanted to beat him again. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment for part 3, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Till next time.